In this video, we discuss array methods filter, map, reduce and sort. I would like to start the discussion with this problem here. Find the difference between two arrays. So we have to find the unique elements from the first array when compared with the second array. In same way, you can find the common elements from these two arrays. Before solving this problem, we need to be familiar with the array method filter. So let's briefly discuss how to use this array method, and we'll be solving this problem after that. Now assume that we have given an array of numbers like this. Now how do we find even numbers from this array? If you are not familiar with filter method, you will be using any of the iterations like for loop or for each. Let me show you the for each method so that you can understand how much this filter method is helpful. So we'll be doing this. We have this for each method, and inside that we have this callback function with item. Now in order to check whether a given number is even or not, we just need to check the remainder like this. If the remainder is 0 when we are dividing the number with 2, then we can say it's an even number. Now in order to store such even numbers, we'll be creating a separate array like this output. Now when we find even numbers like this, we will push the same into the array. Finally, let's print the array here. That's it. So here we have used the typical way of solving this problem. Now let's try to solve this problem with filter method. You can call the method like this, numbers.filter. Now inside this filter method, we just need to pass a condition for filtering elements from this array here. For that, we can pass this callback function like this. Now here we will specify the same condition. Now here we go, return, and let's check the remainder. Let me comment this code here. So this callback function is just to specify the filter condition. And this function or condition will be executed over these elements one by one. The elements matching this given condition here will be selected as part of this filter operation here. That's what every array method does when they accept a callback function like this. So the given callback function will be called on each element inside the array. And elements satisfying this condition will be selected after the filter operation. Now in order to save the returned filtered array, I will declare a new variable x here, and let's print the same here, x. So here we have the same output like before. This time we have just called the filter method with a condition inside it. Actually, we don't need a separate variable like this, so let me remove this and let's move this function call into this log statement here. Now we can even simplify this array method here, because inside this function body we only have one return statement. So first of all, let's remove this wrapping with curly brackets like this, and we can also remove this return keyword here. So remember this, the return keyword is assumed here. For now, I will use the complete syntax. When you become comfortable, you can go for the shorter syntax. Now, if you want odd numbers instead of even numbers, you just need to change the remainder in this condition. That's it. So that's all about the basics of filter method. Now let's find the solution for this problem, difference between two arrays. So here we have those two arrays, array 1 and array 2. Now how do we find the difference between these two arrays? Or it is also similar to the subtraction between these two arrays, which is finding the unique element in this array when compared with the second array here. We just need to filter elements from this array 1. So you can call the method filter here. Now inside this, we just need to specify the condition for the filter operation. So here we have the callback. So this callback function of filter criteria will be evaluated over each element inside this array here. Now we just need to know each of the elements here is also present inside this array here or not. For that, we can make use of the array method includes, and we will specify the element here. Now this includes method will tell whether this element is present inside the second array or not. If it is present inside this array also, this method will return true, otherwise false. Actually, we need to find elements from the first array which is not present inside the second array. So we will compare the return value from the method with false. Elements satisfying this condition will be filtered out from this first array. Now in order to see the same, I will just wrap this function call with this console log like this. Something went wrong. Yes, we forgot to provide the return keyword here. Boom, that's it. All the elements from this first array is present inside this array 2 except 7 and 8. Now you can even simplify this condition here. We need element where this include function return false, right? But from this condition here, we need to return true for the element to be filtered out. Since we are comparing it with false, we are returning true. So instead of doing this, we just need to use the negate operation here. So if this method returned false, this negation will convert the same into true. If you find this confusing, go for the previous version. It is more readable. Now if you want to find common elements from these two arrays, we just need to know whether elements from this first array is also present inside the second array here. So we just need to compare the return result from this include method with true. Now you can even simplify this like this. That's it. The common elements between these two arrays are 3, 2 and 6. Assume that we have an array with these food items and we want to filter vegetables. And here we have the all vegetables filtered out. So if you filter the array with fruits condition, we will get the fruits inside the array. It will be returning all of the fruits inside the array. Now let's try some real world examples. For that, first of all, let me get rid of this existing code here. So consider this array of objects, employees. It contains properties like ID, name, age, designation, salary and phone. And this ID property is used to uniquely identify each of the records inside this array. So rest of the array methods will be discussed with this array of objects, employees. Now let me collapse this array. Now I'll be showing this table corresponding to the array of objects so that you can always see what's inside this employees array here. Now let's retrieve employees who are software developers. For that, first of all, I will wrap the enter filter operation inside this log statement like this. Now we could call this method on this array employees. So here we have the callback with the parameter item. Actually, we need to filter employees whose designation is developer. So the condition would be like this. Designation is equal to developer. Boom, that's it. See, here we have the employees whose designation is developer. So in total, we have 3 software developers inside the company. Now, if you want to filter employees whose age is below 30, for that we can update this condition here, age is less than 30. So here we have got employees whose age is below 30. Now you can even add more condition to this. For example, you want to filter employees whose age is below 30 and they earn about 85,000 per year. For that we can use the AND operator and we could do this item.salary greater than 85,000. So here we have got 2 employees whose age is below 30 and they earn more than $85,000 per year. Hope you are comfortable with this shorter syntax here. If not, try to use the full syntax like this. So this time inside this callback function we have combined 2 conditions. So that's all about the filter method. In previous video, I have categorized common array methods into these 4 categories here, and the last category was returns new array. And here in this video, we are going to discuss these 4 methods here. Rest of the methods are discussed in our previous video. A link is there in video description and inside the iCard top right corner. Now in this video, we are discussing these 4 methods here. And I want to make a few corrections in this categorization here. I want to change this category name to this returns new object because some of the methods are not returning arrays. So I'll have to rename the category to returns new object. So all of the methods inside this category returns a new object, and just opposite to this we have this category which modifies the original array. And also from the previous list of methods I have added a new method find, and which is related to this filter method that we have just discussed. So let's discuss how they are related to each other and how they differ. Both of these methods, filter and find method, is used to return or retrieve or filter elements from an array. This filter method returns all of the array elements or records that satisfies the given condition. But this find method only returns the first record or element satisfies the given condition. Let's check that here. So first of all, I will wrap everything within this console here. Now let me copy paste this filter method here and let's comment this previous one. Now here I will try to retrieve the software developers. So designation is equal to developer. So in return we got 3 employees. Now let's call the find method over the same criteria. Instead of filter, let's call this find method. See, this filter method returns all of the records that satisfies the given condition. But this find method only returns the first record that satisfies the condition. So this find method is helpful if you are looking for a specific record in the array. For example, if you want to look for an employee with a given ID, you just need to do this. This ID is unique to all employees. So if I am looking for this ID, 57, this find method is more appropriate, because as soon as this find method finds a record matching this given condition, it will return the record. At the same time, it will stop looking for other records matching this given condition. But in case of this filter method, it will look through each of the elements inside the array matching the given condition. That's why filter method always return array and this find method returns a single object. Now hope you understood this filter method very well. Now I'll be discussing rest of these methods, map and reducer, using the analogy of making a burger. Now let's check the next array method, map. For that also we'll be using the same employees array. Now you could think of this method as a transformation. This method will return an array with the same number of elements that we already have. So let's start with the log statement here. Now let's call the method map over this employees array. Now this map method will return the same array employees with a transformation inside each of the elements inside it. For example, you want a list of employees with their name. Transformation can be specified with a callback like this. Here also you can use the shortest version without this curly brackets or the returned, but I want to make it more readable for everyone, so I will use the complete syntax. If I return item here, we'll be having the same array that we have given here. Now instead of this, if I want only the ID from this array, I can do this. So this time we got an array with only the employee IDs. Now if you want to retrieve the name of the employees, you can specify that here. So this map method will transform each of the elements inside this array here. And the transformation is specified inside this callback here. So this callback function or the transformation will be applied on each element inside the array. Now this time we want to return a contact register, meaning we need to return the name of the employee and the phone number also. For that, let me split this callback function into multiple lines so that you can understand this better. Instead of this item name, if I just return an object like this, the returned array becomes array of objects. Previously we have been returning item name, which is of the type string, right? As soon as we change this to an object like this, all of these objects are in an array, so array of objects. Inside the contact register we need name, so we'll be having this property name. Into that we can assign this property name from the item, and then we have the phone property, so item dot phone. That's it. So here we have the contact register for all of the employees containing their name and phone number. Now here we have the image illustration or analogy for the map operation. Inside the array we have these elements. Now on this array, if we call the method map for chopping, we will get this output. Everything will be sliced and chopped. In a bit, after the reduce method, we'll be making a burger out of this. This is an interesting and most appropriate example for explaining map and reduce function. And I have to tell you this, I have got the inspiration for this example from one of the JS config lecture by Anjana. I think she was explaining about functional programming. If I find the lecture link, I will post it down in video description. So based on your requirement, you can specify the transformation here. For example, if you want to return the name and also you want to make it uppercase, you can call this to uppercase string method. We got a list of employee names in capital letters. Now that's all about map method. Now let's discuss this reduce method. Like the name implies, this will reduce a conclusion out of the array elements. Let's start with this small array here, numbers. So let's start enclosing everything within this console.log here. Now the syntax for this reduce method is a little bit different from the previous two methods, filter and map. So here we have the reduce method. Now with this reduce method, we are going to make some conclusion or summary based on our requirement. For example, if you want to find some of these elements here, you can make use of this reduce method. So here we have the callback function. This callback function has two parameters, so that's why we got an extra pair of parentheses here. Accumulator, in short, you can use this ACC, and then we have current value. In short, I will use this. In order to find the sum of elements inside the array, we can do this return accumulator plus current. Now as a second parameter, I will pass 0 here. I know you are confused. Don't worry, sit relax, we'll be explaining everything. First of all, let's check whether we are getting the correct sum or not. So 4 plus 3, 7 plus 5, 12 plus 2, 14. Boom. That's it. We got this sum, right? But how it works actually? You must be shocked if you are seeing this for the first time. Now let's explain everything step by step. As I told you before, all of these higher order functions will execute this callback function on each of the elements inside them. So here we have the array that we are going to work with, and here we have the reduce function that we have applied. Now the callback function of reduce has two parameters, accumulator and current. The second argument that we have passed to the reducer will initialize the accumulator parameter here. So accumulator initially got 0. Now the second parameter indicates the current value because this callback is going to be invoked on each of the elements here. Now first for this callback, or you can say reducer, this callback function of this reducer method can also be called as reducer. So this reducer will be invoked. At that time accumulator is having the value 0 and the current value is 4. Right? Because of the addition that we have specified inside the reducer, we will get the sum as 4. And it is returned though. That return value will be saved into the accumulator. Okay? And then let's move to the next element. Now this time, the accumulator is 4 and the current value is 3. As a result of the addition 4 plus 3, we will get 7. It is saved into the accumulator. Now let's move to the next element. This time current is 5. 7 plus 5 returns 12, which is saved to the accumulator. Now let's move to the next element. This time current is 2. As a result of the addition, we get 40. Now there is no element left inside this array. The final value returned from the reduce method will be the value of the accumulator. So that's how we got this sum 14 here. Now if you want to verify what we have explained so far, you just need to add this log statement here, accumulator and then current. So the first element 4 is the inside the current value and the initialized 0 is the inside this accumulator. Then the addition result 4 is saved to the accumulator. Then we have 3 as the current value. Both of them added together 7 saved to the accumulator, then 5 added together 12, and finally we have 2, both of them added together to get the result 40. Now if you want to find the maximum number from this given array, you could do this. First of all, we have initialized the accumulator to 0. If accumulator is the greatest among these values, we will return accumulator, else current. So on each iteration, accumulator and the current value is compared and the biggest number among them is returned. So for the next iteration, the biggest number will be there in the accumulator and then it is compared with the next element inside this current value, and this will go on up to the end of the array, and finally inside the accumulator we will be having the maximum number. Here we have the final result. 5 is the biggest number among this collection here. So this reduce method will evaluate each of the elements inside the array and then it will make a conclusion or summary based on the criteria that we have given inside this callback here. After evaluating all of the elements inside the array, it will return the reduced value based on the criteria. So back to our image illustration here. Assume that we have an array with these food ingredients. From our previous example here, we have added 3 more food ingredients: chicken, then cheese and the bun for the burger. As a result of the map operation, which is cut, slice or chopping, here we have all the ingredients ready for making the burger. And finally we have this reduce method to put all of them into one thing, which is this burger here, which is the topping or stacking all of these items in their proper order. So that's it, we have a delicious burger here. Now let me comment this problem. Now from this employees array, let's find the total employee salary. So everything is trapped within this log statement here. Here we have the array employees and we can call this reduce method here. Inside that we have the callback with these parameters, accumulator and current value. And let's initialize this accumulator with 0. Now inside this callback, we could do this. Accumulator is having the value 0 initially, and on each iteration we want to add the employee salary. So we could do this. This parameter is representing the employee object inside the array. Current dot salary. That's it. We got the total salary of the employees inside the array. Now it's not a mandatory to name these parameters as it is like this. You could name them whatever you want. For example, let's try to rename this parameter with a meaningful name. For that, first of all, select the parameter and then press F2. let it be sum. This is corresponding to the employee object, so I will name it as EMP. Now if you want to find the average of the salaries, you could do this. I will just divide this salary with the number of employees. So it would be employees dot length. Even though we have both multiplication and division, because of the operator precedent, this operation will be executed first and then the sum. It would be better to rename it as average like this. Now regarding this reduce method, I want to discuss one more thing. For that, I will undo the previous changes and let's stick with this sum of salary example here. Now for a reduce method, it's not necessary to initialize the accumulator like we have done here. For some problems, initialization of the accumulator like this might not be needed. And allow me to explain the benefit of ignoring this second parameter here. Assume that we have given an array with 5 elements. Here we have called the reduce method over this array with initialization. On the right hand side, we have done the same without the initialization of the accumulator. Now what difference does it make? If you initialize the accumulator, in the first iteration, the accumulator will be having the initialized value and the current element will be having the first element value. On the other end, if you call the reduce without initial value, on first iteration, the accumulator will be having the first value and the second value will be inside this current parameter here. Hence, this reduce method does not need the first iteration like we have here. Let me explain the same with these examples. So here we found the sum of the elements inside this array. Now even if I remove this initialization here, we will get the same value. How does that work? To give you a better understanding, let me copy this and pasting here. So this is with initial value and this is without initial value. So now inside the callback, let's do this. Accumulator and current value will be printed. Now let me duplicate this and let's move the same into this second reducer here. So I will initialize the accumulator here. See, this reducer is starting with the accumulator and current value like this 0 and 4. Initial value and the first item. And then it goes like we have explained. And in case of this reducer without initial value, on first iteration itself, the accumulator is initialized with the first element which is 4 and the current value is having the value 3. So starting with 4 and 3, added, got 7, which is then added with the next value, found 12, added together. As you can see here we have 4 iteration, here we only had 3 iteration. So one iteration is saved without initial value. So reducer without an initial value is best to find sum of numbers, given numbers like this. But this is not possible with all problems. For example, consider this problem here, finding sum of salary. If I remove this initialization here, everything will mess up. Let's print both the accumulator and the current value. Here we have the first iteration. So first employee is assigned to the accumulator and the second element is assigned to the current value, which is this EMP here. And then sum is added with the current value salary. It's not possible because this is an object. So in these problems, initializing the accumulator is a must. So hope you understood this reduce method very well. Now finally we have the array method sort. So let me get rid of these codes here except the employee array. So let's discuss this sort method. From the name itself, you know what it does. Assume that we have an array like this. Let's do the sort operation inside this log statement here. So numbers dot sort. Everything is sorted in ascending order. So by default, this sort method will sort the elements in ascending order. Now here we have some problems. This sort method does not work with this employees array. See, because it doesn't make a sense. We are applying this sort on an array of objects. So there comes the necessary of customizing this sort method. This sort method will work perfectly fine if you are working with an array of numbers like this. There also we have a problem. The sort operation will be happened after converting each of these elements into a string. For example, instead of this 5, if I pass 55, you will get the output like this. But this is not what we expect. 55 comes before 7 and 8. How it is possible? as I mentioned, everything will be converted to string, then only this default sort operation works. So 55 will be converted to string 55, and then we have 7 and 8, right? So while comparing these two strings, the first character inside this string will be compared with the first character here. In this sense of comparison, this is bigger than this one here. On the first character itself, this 55 is found less than this 7 here in the sense of string. String comparison will be done by comparing the characters in same position like this. So in these situations, we need the privilege to customize the default sort operation here. For that, we can pass a callback function here, and it is having two parameters a and b. And this callback function is called the comparison function. And this comparison function tells when we compare both a and b, which comes first. Okay? To be honest, when I was learning this sort method, this comparison function was a little harder to understand until I found this MDN documentation here. So here it describes how the compare function should be defined. From our compare function here, we have to return a number. If that number is a positive number, B will be sorted before A. If we return a negative number, A comes before B. And finally, if both of them are same based on the criteria, we can return 0. So there won't be no position change. So let's try the same with this example here. If A is greater than B, then B must come before A. So that's why we are returning a positive value 1. Now here we have the else if A is less than B, we will return -1. When we return a negative value, meaning we want A to come before B. And finally here we have the else condition, meaning both of them are same. In that case, we will return 0. Now let me tell you how this compare function confused me a lot. Let's try to print the value of both A and B like we have done with previous array methods. On first iteration itself, you could see that the value of A is 3 and the value of B is 2. These parameters are not in the same order like we have these elements here. This does not mean this is the first element or this is the second element. The sort algorithm is different. So we can't think like that. Just pretend that both A and B are two random numbers inside this array, and when B is less than A, we want B to come first. So we have to return a positive value. When A is less than B, we want A to come first. So we have to return minus value. When they are same, we just need to return 0, just not to bother changing their position. So that's how sort method works. Now back to our employees collection here. Let's sort them based on the employee name in ascending order. Let me comment this problem here. Here we have the log statement employees dot sort. Here we have the comparison function a comma b. Think of them as a random employees inside the collection. Now before this, let's talk about comparing two strings. So here we have the log statement. Now if I compare A with B, we will get false. We can think of in alphabetic order itself. B comes after A, so B is greater in that sense, right? Technically speaking, all characters or strings inside the JavaScript language is saved as Unicode characters, meaning all of these characters has a number mapping in Unicode. Well, for example, let's check the Unicode value for this character A. I have mentioned this method char code at in our string tutorial. So in order to find the character code of this string or the character A, you just need to specify the index here. So the character code or the Unicode number or value corresponding to this A is 97. Since there is only one character, we can ignore this 0 here. Value for this character A is 97 and that of EZ is 122. So A is having 97, B is having 98. So when we compare with them, internally they compare these Unicode values. So 97 is compared with 98. So as we go further, C will be having 99, D will be having 100 and so on up to EZ 122. And this Unicode number will be different for the uppercase characters like this. For capital A it is 65 and that of capital EZ will be 90. So when we compare strings like this, you can think of them in alphabetic order itself, but internally they are comparing with Unicode numbers. Okay. Now here we are going to compare the name of the employees. So we could do this if a dot name, if it is greater than B's name. So in sort direction, B should come first. For that, we need to return a positive value here. So just return 1 here. Now let's duplicate this, and this is for else if. If A is less than B, A should come first. For that, we need to return a negative number. If both of them are same, just return 0. Boom, that's it. Let's check them in full screen here. See, all of these employees are sorted based on their name in ascending order. Now let me comment this and back to the previous example here. Here we were trying to sort these given numbers. Now when we deal with numbers like this, we can simplify this comparison function here. Let me comment this if else block here. Instead, we just need to do this. Return A minus B. It's working perfectly fine. You know why? This subtraction operation here is returning a positive, a negative, or a 0 when they should be. It's returning a positive number when A is bigger. That's what we have here. When A is smaller, it will be returning a negative number. If they are equal, we'll be returning 0. That's what we have here. So when we are dealing with numbers like this, we can simplify the comparison operation like this. Now, if you want to look like a pro developer, you can even remove these curly brackets and this return keyword here. That's it. It does the job perfectly fine. Now let's comment this. Now here we have the final exercise. We need an array containing only employee names and we want to sort them in ascending order. First of all, we need an array containing only the employee names. How do we do that? We have already done the same with the map function. So we could do this item. Here we will just return the item name. So here we have the array containing only the employee names. Now we want to sort these employee names here. For that, we can chain the methods like this. We have, first of all, we have called this map function. Again, we can call another array method here. You know why? This map method is returning an array here. So if we are invoking another sort method here, in effect, we are invoking this sort method on the array that is returned from this map function here. Everything is sorted as we expected. So the default sort operation works perfectly fine with strings. So that's it guys. Hope you found this discussion fruitful. If you think so, please consider subscribing to this channel CodAffection if you haven't yet. It will definitely motivate me to make more and more videos like this in future. Please like and share this video with your friends and colleagues. See you in next video.